The night before the birthday arrived like a storm without rain, heavy and pressing on the chest. The kind of night where sleep refuses to come because every thought hurts a little too much. The single mother sat on the edge of a worn sofa in a one-bedroom apartment where the walls were thin and the dreams even thinner, holding a crumpled list of prices she had memorized but still could not afford. In her mind echoed the sentence she had whispered to herself all evening, the one that felt like a failure wrapped in love, the one that broke her heart before it ever reached her child's ears. She could not afford a Barbie for her daughter's birthday, and the shame of that truth burned hotter than hunger ever had. What she did not know, what she could not possibly imagine in that fragile moment, was that this quiet confession would soon ripple outward and collide with the life of a man who owned skyscrapers, commanded boardrooms, and had forgotten what it meant to truly see someone struggling right in front of him. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people choose compassion over indifference, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may need them the most. The woman's days were built from exhaustion and determination in equal measure. She woke before sunrise to prepare her daughter for school, packing lunches that looked cheerful but were calculated down to the last coin. She worked 2 jobs, one cleaning offices after hours, and another at a small cafe where the smell of coffee clung to her clothes long after her shift ended. Every step she took felt like a quiet promise to her child that things would one day be better, even when her own hope flickered like a weak bulb. The birthday had been circled on the calendar for months, a red reminder that grew louder as the date approached. Her daughter had never asked for much, but there had been one moment weeks earlier when her eyes had lingered on a doll in a store window, a simple Barbie surrounded by pink cardboard dreams. The mother had smiled then, nodded softly, and walked on, already knowing the math would never work in her favor. The apartment they shared was clean but bare, decorated with handmade drawings taped to the walls and a small table that doubled as a homework station and dinner space. On the evening before the birthday, the mother wrapped a modest gift she had bought from a discount bin, a second-hand toy cleaned and repaired with care. Her hands shook as she taped the paper closed, not because the gift lacked love, but because she feared it might lack magic. She practiced her smile in the bathroom mirror, trying to make it convincing enough to hide the ache in her chest. Outside, the city moved on with its usual indifference, cars rushing past, lights glowing in windows where money was never a question. Somewhere in that city lived a CEO whose name was known in headlines, a man surrounded by wealth so constant it had become invisible to him, a man whose path was about to cross hers in the most unexpected way. The morning of the birthday began like any other, with hurried routines and quiet sacrifices. After dropping her daughter at school, the mother rushed to her cafe job, unaware that the schedule had been changed. A private corporate event was taking place that afternoon, and the cafe had been contracted to provide service. She cleaned tables, refilled cups, and tried not to think about the small celebration she would attempt that evening. As guests began to arrive, dressed in tailored suits and expensive confidence, she felt herself shrink into the background, a shadow moving efficiently between polished shoes. Among them was the CEO, a man whose presence seemed to bend the room slightly toward him. He was known for sharp decisions and a relentless drive. But beneath the surface lay a life shaped by loss he rarely allowed himself to remember. During a brief pause, the mother stepped into a quiet corner near the storage area to check her phone, scrolling through a photo of her daughter smiling at last year's birthday with a homemade cake. The weight of the moment overwhelmed her, and in that small, unseen space she whispered the words she had been holding back, the admission that she could not afford the one thing her child wanted most. She did not know that the CEO, momentarily separated from his entourage, stood just close enough to hear the tremor in her voice. He did not hear it as a complaint, but as something far more piercing, a raw confession of love colliding with limitation. For a split second, the noise of the world around him faded, replaced by a memory he had buried deep. Years ago, long before success had armored him, he had been a child standing beside his own mother in a nearly identical moment. He remembered her tired eyes, the way she worked herself thin, and the small lies she told to protect his innocence. That memory had shaped him, then been forgotten as he climbed higher and higher. Hearing the whispered truth from this stranger cracked something open inside him, something he had not allowed to breathe in decades. He watched her straighten her shoulders and return to work, never looking his way, unaware that her quiet pain had just collided with his past. The CEO spent the rest of the event distracted, his attention drifting away from business conversations and toward the rhythm of the cafe staff moving through the room. He observed the mother from a distance, noticing the care she took with each task, the way she smiled for customers even when her eyes carried fatigue. For the first time in a long while, his wealth felt less like an achievement and more like a responsibility. He began asking questions, subtle ones, about the staff and their lives, about wages and hours. The answers unsettled him. By the time the event ended, a decision had already formed, not as a grand gesture for publicity, but as something deeply personal he felt compelled to do. That evening, the mother picked up her daughter from school, bracing herself for the celebration she feared would disappoint. They stopped at a small bakery where she bought a single cupcake, planning to add a candle at home. As they returned to the apartment, a neatly wrapped package sat outside their door, larger than anything she had prepared. There was no note, no name, only a simple tag wishing a happy birthday. Confusion mixed with caution as she brought it inside, her heart pounding with uncertainty. When she opened the box, her breath caught. Inside was not just a Barbie, but a complete set, pristine and beautiful. Something far beyond what she had ever imagined being able to give. Her daughter's joy filled the room like sunlight, pure and unfiltered, and in that moment the mother felt something loosen inside her chest. Tears came not from sadness, but from relief and gratitude so intense it felt overwhelming. The gift was accompanied by an envelope containing more than money. It held an offer of support, childcare assistance, and a promise of educational opportunities, all arranged quietly and respectfully. There was no demand for recognition, no expectation of gratitude beyond what she already felt. It was signed simply from someone who remembered. In the days that followed, changes unfolded gently but steadily. The mother found herself able to reduce her hours, spending more time with her daughter without the constant fear of bills closing in. She returned to school part-time, pursuing a qualification she had once abandoned. Each step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of herself she had sacrificed to survival. The CEO, for his part, began reshaping parts of his company's policies, influenced by a single whispered sentence that had reminded him of his own beginnings. He funded programs for working parents, raised wages quietly, and made choices that would never make headlines but would change lives all the same. The two never met again in any dramatic fashion, and perhaps that was the point. The impact of their brief intersection did not require recognition to be real. It lived in the laughter of a child playing with her doll, in the confidence of a mother walking into a classroom, and in the softened heart of a man who had remembered why he once dreamed of success in the first place. Sometimes the most powerful reactions are not loud or public, but deeply human, born from empathy rather than obligation. If this story has reached something tender inside you, if it has reminded you of struggles you've faced or kindness you've witnessed, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching others who may need hope right now. Before we reach the end, we have a special request for you. Please comment the word kindness below and share a moment when compassion changed your life or someone else's. The mother would later look back on that birthday not as the day she could not afford a Barbie, but as the day she learned she was not invisible. The CEO would look back on it as the moment success finally meant something more than numbers. And somewhere between those two lives, a quiet truth settled in, that kindness does not require wealth, only awareness, and that even the smallest, most fragile whisper can echo far enough to change everything.